They say it's possible to have too much of a good thing, but clearly no one knew of Elden Ring when they coined that phrase all those centuries ago. An outstanding winner of copious Game of the Year accolades, the experience remains relevant to this day, and that's even without this month's enormous Shadow of the Erdtree DLC beckoning veterans back to the lands between. Ahead of release, Bandai Namco kindly invited our man Liam to Paris to play the opening 3 hours of the expansion. In motion within the first area alone, it's the most comprehensive extension of a game that FromSoftware has ever created. Here's Liam's preview. Having selected one of 3 different classes, either warrior, knight or sorcerer at level 150, we entered the Land of Shadow via a new portal in Mogwin Palace, accessed by interacting with Michaela's hand sticking out the cocoon in the back. From there, the task was quite simple. Bandai Namco allowed us exactly 3 hours to freely explore the opening area of the DLC, taking in its core story path, optional areas, and new features and mechanics. It's more Elden Ring on the face of it, but dig a little deeper and you shall find things that differentiate Shadow of the Erdtree from the base game. The initial landmass upon entering the Land of Shadow puts even the gloomiest places across the original experience to shame. Presumably once a proud land, it's now overcome with rot and ruin. Set under the cover of night, this is an overwhelmingly dark place that feels purposefully desolate. Its fields feature new enemies with only a few patrolling demons and gargoyles choosing to attack. It's a setting not even your rivals wish to inhabit, with magical gravestones and mass hangings taking their place off in the distance. Enemy density does increase though as you approach the region's landmarks, as new legacy dungeons and other optional locations provide excellent distractions to the mainline pursuit of Michaela. With new bosses at the end of every one, the labyrinthine routes to those arenas and beyond remain just as gripping as they are in the base game. One boss wore a lion's face, yet was anything but one elsewhere. Another worked with a great sword and flaming arrows to cover both close and long range fights, and a third was the twin sister of a familiar face. If you're jumping into Shadow of the Erdtree after a long break, these boss battles may prove to be a bit of a brick wall as you work to regain the muscle memory lost in the 2 years following the base game's release. However, Shadow of the Erdtree offers its own helping hand via a brand new mechanic called the Erdtree Blessing. By collecting specific items across the Land of Shadow, you can take them back to a site of grace and upgrade your ability to deal and negate damage, as well as enhancing your spirit ashes. These enhancements are only active when you're in the DLC, so they will not apply if you return to the original game. It was impossible to really tell how much of an effect the blessings had during our hands-on session, but it's an interesting addition that's going to benefit both new and returning players. Another new feature we didn't really have enough time to work out is the presence of new golden crosses, both in the game world and on your map. The associated description said they were meant to mark Michaela's footprints, and the 3 we found were next to sites of grace. It seems like there's something to them, but exposure in the opening area alone wasn't enough to understand their use. There were then new Ashes of War to discover, more items with unique uses, extra talismans to equip, and variants of known consumables that allow you to use them much faster in the heat of battle. FromSoftware has already promised 10 major boss encounters and 100 new weapons across 8 bonus categories. So our 3 hours with this DLC were really just scratching the surface. We experienced enough there at least to prove that Shadow of the Erdtree is mostly more of a very good thing with a few new ideas sprinkled in. The expansion is almost certainly holding its biggest secrets closest to its chest, but in terms of how you play and interact with it, this is more Elden Ring. Leading into all the greatest aspects of the base game, the Land of Shadow invites another brutally gripping experience with industry-leading art direction, tense combat, and the greatest sense of exploration. In its opening hours, Shadow of the Erdtree emulates that base Elden Ring undertaking, and that is no bad thing when to this day it remains genre-defining. So let me know how excited you are for the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC down in the comments below, and while you're there, if you enjoyed the video, consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel for more PlayStation video content. Anyway, thank you everyone for watching, and until next time, I've been Aaron, and this has been Push Square.